As you all know, Money.com is a powerful workflow management tool. And as you all know, it works great for CPAs and accountants. I'm Daniel Moshe, and this is my esteemed colleague, Julie Thureen, calling in from St. Paul, Twin Cities, Minnesota. You might remember me from such YouTube blockbuster hits as the earlier version of the CPA workflow template video that I did. So we're back at it again. We've got another year under our belt working with Money.com and CPA firms, and we've learned a lot. And as a result, we've made our workflow management template even better. So we're excited to release version 2.0. Here at Lucid Day, we love Money.com and we love working with CPAs. So that's why we kept improving and upgrading this template just for you. So if you haven't had the chance to download it into your Money.com account, we'll provide links for that and an email with instructions. And if you're haven't yet signed up for Money.com, we also have a special link for you to use for that as well. So in rolling out version 2.0, we've got a lot of great new features and functionality since the last time we had the opportunity to talk about it. And not to mention, Money.com actually has gotten a lot better as well. A lot of new functionality that we'll be highlighting over the course of our conversation today. I invite you to make this interactive. Use the chat, use the Q&A panel, post your questions. We'd love to make sure that we weave in as much as possible your questions, thoughts, and ideas. And we might even have a couple minutes towards the end for a little bit of Q&A as well. So here's what we're going to be covering today. I'll be turning it over to Julie momentarily, our Monday.com expert, to walk through the sales and marketing workflows. It's how you can be intentional and collaborate with your team and colleagues to drive new clients, drive new revenue, cross-sell, upsell, bring new clients into your firms, and keep everybody on the same page. Next up, we'll talk and walk through our tax workflow that will allow you to take multiple clients through a common workflow that you provide as a service to them in your firm. From there, we'll go into a client-specific workflow. And what that does and is for a client has multiple services from your firm, from maybe different teams or groups, keeping all of it coordinated on the same page and keeping everybody knowing what and who needs to be getting done next. From there, we'll talk about the client portal, where you can securely invite your clients to access as well as upload the documents that you need to work on with them. And then we'll wrap up with a conversation about the QuickBooks integration with automated invoice tracker. That's kind of a new and exciting integration we're excited to be talking about. In addition, we'll be highlighting all other functionality throughout Money.com that will help you streamline and automate the workflows within your firm. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Julie, who's going to guide us through this journey. And this is a live demo, so just keep that in mind. This is not recorded. So you'll get to see literally Julie running and using Money.com in action. Over to you, Julie.
Perfect. Thank you, Daniel, for that fine introduction. I am looking so forward to sharing with you all the workflow that we have created. And again, just to reiterate, if you have questions throughout, please throw those in the chat or the Q&A. Tanya will be answering what she can, or she'll be making sure to ask those questions if it's relevant to what we're talking about. So this becomes for you. So the first thing that we'd like to talk about is just in basic Monday.com. Some of you may already have Monday.com, or you understand these particular features, but just to give an overview in case you don't, or it's always good to be reminded, Monday.com is broken into building blocks. Your highest building block your highest level of organization is called a workspace. So over here, you'll see that we've got our workspaces. And if I open this up, I can see a drop down of my workspaces. I can add a new workspace. I can browse. Think of this like function or department. So for you, you may actually take this template that we created that really contains much of what you might need in your firm on Monday and break it into different workspaces. So actually you might have a sales workspace. You might have a workflows workspace. Maybe you'll have a client's workspace. But for the sake of the app that we made for you, it's all in one workspace. And when you download it, it will come in as your accounting firm's workflow into its own workspace with the next level of organization, which is called a folder. So the folders in Monday, as you can see, we have our sales and marketing folder, our workflows folder, our client portal example. And this one you won't see on your app if you have downloaded it because it's a part of an integration that you would need to get, but we have an automated invoice tracker folder. And you can see that even within the folder, you have the ability to have a subfolder. So in our workflows, we have an alternate recurring services subfolder that we've just added so that you can break your folders down even further. So we have our workspaces, then our folders, our subfolders, and within each folder, we have our boards. And we'll look at this new client sales pipeline here. Within our boards, we have our groups. So groups are further level down of organization. In this particular board, they are stages in the lead process. So incoming, active, closed, won, lost. But for example, if we look in our 1040 tax board, you'll see that our groups are ready for prep, assembled, waiting for client's approval, filed. Or even further example, in our client template, you'll see that our groups are months of the year. So there are a lot of different ways you can format your groups to be custom to what your firm does and how you understand the information. So this is a good starting place, but you may want to further customize the names of these groups, and you can do that in Monday. You can rename this. Any of these groups can be renamed. You can add or remove groups as well. Within a group, our next level of organization is what Monday calls an item. An item can be anything, doesn't have to be a task. In this case, you can see that our items are actually leads or clients, client names. But some of our other workflows, they're actually tasks as part of the tax workflow, for example, or they could also be to-do list things. Really, an item is anything that you need. It's our further level of organization. And then beyond that, we have our columns. So our columns organize the information. In this particular case, you can see we've got our contact information. We have some process information, like where are we at in the contact? We had first attempt, second attempt, has the engagement letter been sent? So these are all columns that further organize, break down, and define the information in Monday. We'll get into that a little bit more specifically later on. And then finally, we have views. So views are really, really powerful. And a lot of times people miss them. Up here, we've got our views toolbar. And you can see that I'm able to click on this view here and I can filter where the due date is this month. Well, I don't have any due dates that are this month, so nothing's showing up here. But if I did, it would be showing up in this view. So every time I could click here and see just the information I want to see for that specific instance. Think of it sort of like a subboard. I've also described it a little bit like a sheet within a book in Excel. And in general, you probably have noticed that Monday looks somewhat similar to Excel in terms of its columns. There are some differences, but that's kind of a good starting place to think about it. Any questions about the basic building blocks before I move on to the more of the meat?
Yeah, just a reminder, if you post questions in the chat or Q&A panels, I'll kind of help facilitate some of those. The thing that I like about those views, Julie, is like, it's just taking the same information and looking at it kind of in a different like dimension or different pieces of it. That's really quick. You're able to really quickly switch to and look at things that are most relevant. So you're not digging and scrolling. I've heard people say like slice and dice the data, like that is kind of what, what it does for you. I'm not seeing any questions, so I think we can keep on moving.
Exactly. And I think that's such a great point because, for example, if you are wanting a high level view, you don't really care as much about the low level detail. You can create a view specifically for that. So maybe your sales folks or your accountants that are working on leads are using this big board that has lots of information, but you only really care to see the status of these leads. So you can create a view that just, let's call it high level. And not only can I hide the columns I don't want to see, because I just want to see the name of the client, and I want to see where they are in the process. That's it. And maybe I don't want to see those closed ones. I just want to see the ones that have yet to be closed. So I can create a filter where I'm not seeing that closed won or closed loss group. I'm just seeing what's incoming and active. So now I have my own custom made view that I can easily filter so that every time I want to see high level, I can skip all of the detail and go straight to what it is that I want to see. I know that Daniel, you love that. You love skipping the detail and just
What do I
drilling
need to know right now to do my job? Like,
Exactly.
that's what you know what I mean? That's a great point. And so I think the thing is too, people are just more productive and effective when they can see the things without all the distraction that they really need to work on right now.
Exactly. Now I want to spend a little bit more time than maybe some of you are hoping on our sales and marketing space. And the reason is maybe instead of thinking of it like sales and marketing, think of it like the CRM. It's your client or your customer relationship management tool. Monday is able to do that. And it does it very well, in fact. So even if I know there are a lot of you out there that don't necessarily need at this point to market to new clients. You're not necessarily going out and getting new clients, but you are potentially remarketing to your current clients, or just wanting to keep them in the loop with what you have coming out, what the new services that you're offering. And so Monday can be used really well in that way. And I'm going to show you that, focus on that, as opposed to focusing on how the function of these, like the sales pipeline, how that works, because these how-to videos, Daniel walks through how to use each of these boards. So I'm going to move to the remarketing board so you can see a little bit of how we might use this, and then I'll go back to this new client sales pipeline. So a lot of our CPA firm clients do remarketing because you have current clients that you're trying to increase the services that you're doing with them. So maybe you have your accountants that are working on, that have various accounts that you want them to nurture, and you want them to reach out a certain number of times in the season, having to do with new services that you're offering. So here you can, in this particular instance, you put your ideas in, you can actually connect them to a specific account. So you can make sure that that account has a specific number of ideas, for example, for remarketing that you're doing. So this particular idea one, I'm connecting my J&B Construction and Design LLC. And as you saw that happen magically, it relationally pulled the information that I've asked it to pull, the phone number, so that I don't have to go find this client on my active client list and find their phone number. It comes right here. It also means that if I change the phone number here, because I just talked to them and they got a new point of contact and their phone number is actually 68 instead of 66, not only is this changing here on this board, but it's also going to change on my source of truth board, which is my active clients. There they are right there. And if I scroll down to their phone number, you'll see it's 68 now instead of 66. So that's great. You have one source of truth. Everyone in your company, in your firm, is potentially updating information. Instead of having 6 records for that same contact, you have one, and it's changed everywhere where it's linked. So that's a huge piece of Monday that's worth mentioning. The other thing that's really super about the CRM functions of Monday is what they call the item card. Now, the item card is a view that you can add, but it is added to the app, so you shouldn't need to add it. It's called deal information. That's what we've retitled it. And here you can see a few things. One, I see the information in a vertical fashion instead of a horizontal fashion. I very lovingly call it death by horizontal scrolling. I don't know if you're like me, but I hate scrolling horizontally. And some of these boards can get pretty long. I would much rather scroll vertically. It's easier to do on my mouse. Tendinitis is avoided, and the information I can just like pinpoint a little bit easier. So that's one thing we love about the item card. The other thing is that you can, again, what Daniel said, splice and dice the data to only show what you want to see. So for example, this is just showing Jim Sam's contact information. We need to get some more information from him because he hasn't given us much, but we'll start filling in this information, and I can pull this out and see it's filling in the data on the board. So this is just a different view of the information. It's a lot more user-friendly. Daniel is the partner. I can fill in the phone number, so on and so forth. I've also created a little bit of a side widget here called pipeline status, because this is just showing where they are in the pipeline. Okay, if their second attempt to contact, I can see their contracts if I've hyperlinked them there from my SharePoint. And then down here, you can see that we have what is called in Monday, emails and activities. This is a really, really slick situation here. So I'm going to put my email address in here. And I'll just refresh the page to give this a little bit of time to reboot. The emails and activities allows you to email directly from your email server to the client. Why might you want to do that? Well, it's a lot easier to streamline your emails if you are in Monday and you've connected them to a particular person. It comes to the person, to Jim Sam, it's going to look exactly the same. It's going to arrive from you, from your email, and it's going to look like a normal email. It's not going to look like a promotional email or something from Monday or anything like that. But it logs all of the emails that you put in here. So that way you get an audit of all of the different emails that you've sent. We have put out a blog post more on our website, more specifically about emailing through Monday. So I'm not going to go into great detail, but that's just a super great feature for your client relationship management. Also, if you have your other team accountants, your staff accountants that are contacting these people, you can see an audit of their emails to them as well. So nothing's getting lost. You're not having to like dig through your email, trying to find a particular email that was sent. And you can keep loose tabs on your staff accountants, making sure they're actually emailing clients, and you can see the responses. So it's literally logging, an audit log, and it doesn't expire. So for that 7-year long keeping of logs and audits, you're good to go with that particular email system.
So one question, Julie, that came up is, hey, I have a list of prospects or clients in an Excel spreadsheet, per se. Does Monday.com have the functionality to be able to import that? And if so, how might one do that?
Great question. Yes, there are 2 ways to import data from an Excel spreadsheet. The first thing that I have to note is that making sure that you have essentially, especially for like contact information, if you have everything in like a big chunk of the address, it's going to come in that way. So if you want it broken out, you'll need to do that in Excel before importing. But you can either click this up here, plus add. You can import data straight from Excel. It's going to ask you to bring in an Excel document here, at which point you're going to map the columns. It's very easy. And it creates a board that basically looks exactly like your Excel document. And then you can customize it from there to change anything. This is what I would absolutely recommend for importing client lists. This is what we do all the time with with clients is that we help them fashion their Excel spreadsheets to import nicely. Then we import that in as the first thing, and then we start to just customize it, put it into a pipeline, put it into here, or put it into some sort of active clients board. It is so crucial. Even if you're using a different system for your practice or tax management that has a client list, I would still recommend that you import your client list into Monday, because it will really help your team with that relational database thing that I showed you here. And so that if you don't have duplicate records running around. The other way that you can import, let's say you just have pretty basic information. You have the name of the client, you have the point of contact, and maybe the street address, state, zip, phone number. You can actually import it into one of our already existing boards by clicking on this little blue arrow here next to new item, import items, and it's going to import the data from Excel to Monday. And you basically just have to map from this column in Excel to this column in Monday. And it's very, very easy to do. It's also easy to redo in case it comes in a way that wasn't exactly what you wanted. You can always re-import. It's a very swift and excellent process that we always recommend people do. Great question.
Julie, one more question. Kevin is wondering, for your email logging functionality that you showed a few minutes ago on the item card, if you can also log incoming as well as outbound emails and see that history.
Yes, you can. So within the emails and activities here, I'll bring it up. You are able to set the settings to automatically log all my outgoing emails. Tanya, can you correct me here for incoming emails, like if J&B Construction and Design emailed me, will it log that incoming email within the emails and activities?
Yes, it's through an integration. So from the board integration from the email. So when an email is received from that email column, it will automatically log it as an update.
Excellent. So
on the item.
Yes. Perfect. So I was just about to cover the email integrations anyway, so that's a good segue. So this is slightly different to the question that was asked. It's not the emails and activities, it's actually an email integration, which is a bolster of the emails and activities. So as Tanya mentioned, for example, when an email from this email column is received, add it to the item as an update. That is one option that you can choose. Or for example, another space where this would be very helpful is if you're wanting to send out reminder emails. For example, the time has come, please set up your first consultation for taxes this season. You can actually set up an automated email that goes out in bulk to your clients, or to remind them, for example, to get their 1099s in and things like this. So this allows you to create that automated email based on a date trigger or based on a status trigger, so that your clients are getting those automated emails when you want them to, without you having to do anything.
Sweet. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to move on from the sales and marketing and go into the workflows. So the way that we have this particular app working is that our contacts, our active clients, again, you don't have to do it this way, but we find that it's a very helpful way to get your client information into the workflow boards without somebody having to manually enter or import. If you first start by importing your active clients, and then you decide what are the services, or in this case, boards that you need to have on your account. So we have set this up in the app for our 1040 column and for our monthly bookkeeping. So I just went to my Automate Center to show you that we have this set up for in two ways, for our 1040 and for our monthly bookkeeping. And that's because everybody has different services that they offer. So we just wanted to give you a taste of how this would work. So for example, if J&B Construction and Design LLC does have a 1040, then I would mark yes for them. And this particular status change is what's triggering their information to go on my 1040 tax board. So if I click ready for prep, you'll see my J&B Construction and Design LLC came over automatically. It's linked relationally, yay. So again, if I needed to change any information in here, let's get an email in here as well. Now you can see my email came over. So that way you're not having to, it's much quicker to do it that way than to import for each, but you can import as well. There's no problem with importing into a workflow board that you've created and importing your clients that way as well, as I showed you here. So that's the first thing to know is how a lot of times people ask, how do you get your active clients to the workflow boards? And this is the way. It's by creating an automation that triggers when 1040 changes to Y, create an item in that board and connect them, which is somewhat of an advanced automation. And what I would recommend is that you click on it and just sort of see what's going on by clicking on each of the different items. And you'll be able to understand, I think, a little bit more about how that works. And we can also, Tanya can send any tutorials if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that. So let's move to our 1040 tax board. This is an example that can be used really for any one-time or form, as opposed to something that's recurring like bookkeeping or financial accounting or credit card reconciliation. We probably wouldn't recommend this for that. Just because of the way this is set up. It's meant to utilize our status column to show the different steps in the process. And I'm not going to go too much into this because, again, Daniel did a great video in our how-to videos that walks through how this works. So I just want to talk mostly about the different types of workflows and then leave some space for questions. Probably the more challenging piece that we find in working with people, the firms we work with in Monday, is recurring services. How do we do recurring services? Whether, again, it's bookkeeping or credit card reconciliation. And so we have this recurring services board that can be changed for whatever type of service you are offering, as well as the frequency. So let's say you had you do a trimester bookkeeping or financial accounting. You can change this to be your trimester template. And the only piece that you really need to change in the back end is so simple. And it's here in the Automate Center. And you can see here that every 3 weeks on Friday, it's going to duplicate that monthly template and push it to the top so that I can rename it the name of the month, and we can get going on the month of December or January. Well, if this is your trimester financial accounting or your weekly financial accounting, we would just need to click here and change the amount when it duplicates. This is an automatic duplication. It's great, but you can also duplicate manually, and it takes about 2 seconds to duplicate manually. There it is, my duplicate there. I can rename it. So if you don't want to mess with the automation and it's confusing to you, no problem. You just would want to duplicate your template group and rename it the name of the month or the name of the quarter or whatever works for you. And the other thing worth noting in here, we'll take a look at December here. I'll delete this top group. So in December, you can see that I have the names of my clients here. And then I have a few different ways that I can distinguish tasks. The first way is using sub items. So I can create sub items for the tasks for the clients. That's typically what firms choose to do. And these can be templatized if they're standard across all clients, or they could be created individually and just turned into whatever that particular client needs. If they are standard, another way to do it would be to use our status column here. So for example, Sari Sweets is on task 1 for monthly bookkeeping, and I'm working on it. And I finished task 2. So now I'm done and I will be starting task 3, but I haven't started it yet. So that'd be the other way that we sometimes see with tasks, but typically because every client is slightly different, we see firms mostly liking to use the sub item column to create those tasks, potentially to assign owners. If you have like an intern accountant or a junior accountant that's helping this particular preparer, you can assign them to particular tasks here so they don't have to be the same person, and then they can work on the task at the same time. Any questions about the recurring services? I want to leave some space for that because there tends to be a lot of questions here.
None so far that I see, but I think it's poignant that you can do it either programmatically, again, through the automation, or you can manually create those as well. And then you can also duplicate the entire board really easily as well if there's multiple different types of services that you provide. This is just an example that you can use to get you started.
That's correct. Thank you so much for saying that. And actually, that's what we recommend when we work with people, is that let's create this template for your recurring services. Like bookkeeping is a great example because you likely have different frequencies that you're doing bookkeeping. So let's create the template of the columns because they're likely the same.
Right.
Let's get the automation built in there. And then all we have to do is click on this little board menu and duplicate the board. Rename it the new frequency type. So we'll, instead of monthly, let's say this is bi-weekly. We have duplicate of, and then we have the option to select what to duplicate. And in this case, you would likely want to duplicate the structure, which would be our columns and our groups, as well as our automations. We probably also want to duplicate our items as well. Potentially, it just depends on your situation, but when in doubt, I usually advise to do that just in case, so you don't lose items. And then duplicate, and it would duplicate the board right away, and there it is, ready for you to customize. Awesome. So let's jump into the client portal example, which includes the client template that Daniel mentioned as well. So some of you, this is a different way to structure your board. So this is where instead of the process being a board, with monthly bookkeeping, 1040 tax, we're seeing a client as a board. And sometimes that is what intuitively firms think to do. Oh, I'll just have, each of my clients will be their own board and I can kind of keep track of my client that way. And that might actually be the best solution for you. But if you have like 500 clients that you're doing credit card reconciliation for, and it's a standard process, and there's not a lot of white glove concierge hand holding there, we would not recommend that you create a board per client. That's a lot of boards, 500 boards. No one wants to manage that. So it would be better for those standard processes, those clients, to go onto these process boards. And if you have a client that's where they're a concierge client, or they have a lot of different services with you, or they're high touch and you really want to make sure that you don't miss anything, or you might want, this might be a value add for them to have their own space in their own portal in Monday, where they can upload things and see progress, then this is what you would want to do. So a client template where your groups can be either months. For example, here we've got all of our months just already broken out, or they could be different services. So you can see we've got our bookkeeping as a service, and we also have our tax return up here, our process. Maybe they have a strategic planning service that you're doing with them. Or they may have bank reconciliations and credit card reconciliations. So each of the different services could be a group with all of the tasks associated with that as your items, or you might choose to do it this way where you've got the month and all of the different tasks that need to happen for bookkeeping or for just a particular month in general. There are some other pieces that are a part of this, but I think I'd like to spend a little bit more time on how you might interact with your clients on Monday, because I think that's a little bit more interesting. But before I do that, are there any questions about this, what I just went over in particular?
I think you're going to get into it, but there's two great questions that came up. And one that I'm imagining you're going to cover in a moment here is, can you assign tasks to a client? But wait, there's another great question by our same audience member also. And Tanya also put a response in here, but might be cool to have you touch on as well, which is there an option to set warnings or reminders that deadlines are approaching or had already passed?
Excellent.
So, two great
Great
questions.
There are a number of ways that clients can interact with you with your Monday system. Let me start with the easiest way that requires no setup on their end and is baked into the system regardless of how you build things out. And that is having your clients fill out a form to receive documentation or information from them. Any board within Monday can be turned into a form. And I'm going to show you how to add that by clicking Add View and Form, but I've already created that within this client template. So I created this tax return form. And just to walk you through this, you're able to customize the color, add your account logo, customize the name of the form, what you're looking for. You can change any of the names of the columns. So these are literally the columns that pulled in, but I can change this to say your first and last name, please. And this will not change the name of the board. It just changes the view here. I can require or hide any question. So as you can see, I've got a number of hidden columns on here because they don't need to know due date or status, but I do want to know what document type this is. So I'll keep that one open. I also want them to upload documents. So I'm going to keep that one visible and I'm going to require it. Now you can share this form via a link or embed it into an email, for example. And when they get it, it's going to look like this. So when they fill it out, Julie Thoreen, and this is a tax organizer, and we'll log that in there, submit it. And then when it comes into the group that I decided, which was my client documents. It comes in, there it is, my tax organizer, and I can even get notified that it's been uploaded. This could happen on any board. So for example, if you wanted to have it, your 1040 taxes, if you wanted to have that be uploaded directly to your Monday, you could create a form here. You could bring in your engagement letters through a Monday form. Any information that you're trying to get from a client, you can create a form and have it dump into your Monday. So that is the first way that you can interact with the client in Monday. The second way is to invite them as a guest user. Within Monday, you have if you get the pro or the enterprise plan, which we almost always recommend for our firms, because anything less than pro is not going to get you what you need. So within those two plans, you can invite an unlimited number of guests. Guests are free users that you can share boards with. So you can see this board is shareable. So I can invite a guest to this board. I can assign them. As you can see, Stacy is a guest. She's got that little purple tag, and I've invited her to this board, and I have assigned her to assemble the tax return. Now, I wouldn't want a client to assemble their own tax return, but just to give you an example. And so a client can actually access this board and see the things that have been assigned to them and work on it as if they were a user. A few things to note about that have to do with permissions. So if you, for example, have information on this board that you don't want the client to see, there's a few ways you can lock that. The first would be a column permission, which if you click on a column menu, you can change the column permission to either restrict the view or the edit of it, which would be very helpful for a client so they don't accidentally edit something that they shouldn't. You can also restrict the view. I can't on this particular one because I just made a setting that, but you can restrict the view so that they can't even see it when they go in. The other space that you can restrict is if you have the enterprise solution, and I would recommend that if you're planning on doing a lot of client interaction in Monday, you can actually make it so that clients can only view the items assigned to them. So if, for example, Stacy, when she comes in here, if I've set the board permissions to be that people can only, and this says coming soon for the enterprise plan. If this is something that you want and you get enterprise, it will come on your account, or you can ask us and we'll release it for you. So you can assign, so people can only view the items assigned to them. When Stacy comes in here, she'll only see those items. She won't see anything else. And she'll only see the columns that I've made available for her. And she can only edit the things that I've made it possible for her to edit. That's really crucial in something like the client portal template that we have created. So for example, I have created this client view, but a client can still go to these other views. Views are not locked. You can't make a view hidden. Anyone can access a view. So that's something really important to keep in mind if you are going to be sharing Monday with your clients. So you can see on our main table, we've got a lot of different groups on here. Our contact information, our upcoming requests need your attention in review. These are all for documents. But the client view is just anything that is an upcoming document that we need for them to look at that's showing up on here. And then they can upload the document, they can certify, they can submit it or save the draft. And then as you can see here, I've locked these columns, and that communicates two things to the client. One, you're not supposed to edit this. And two, you don't have to worry about editing this. Just again, like to Daniel's point, you don't want to, it's just a nice, generous move to say, you don't have to worry about editing this because people don't know what they're supposed to do and what they're not. So it's a good way to communicate that. This particular portal, we also have in a dashboard, which I haven't even touched on at all. But you can see in this dashboard, that's meant for the client, that they're able to see their information in a slightly more portal-like manner. They can see what they need to turn in, what's pending, what's been approved. They can see a calendar of any meetings that you've set. Any discussions or messages that you have, they can see. And if you wanted to put some news worth reading, we just threw that in there for fun. So this is a client portal. Using Monday as a client portal, we would recommend for high touch clients. We would recommend it if you have a few high touch clients. There is a decent amount of management that has to go into just making sure that the client signs up and that the permissions are set correctly and that you know, they understand how to use it. You want to set them up to succeed. And so if you have 300 clients, we probably wouldn't recommend using Monday in this fashion. We'd rather recommend using the form that I showed you to have them submit information into your Monday. But if you have those high touch clients, this is a great way to get them to feel the value, to feel really cared for, and to have some insight into the process so that they feel that you're really caring for them. let me address that quick question about notifications. So within any board, you can set a notification. I might have it in here. Let's see. Yeah. So here you see I have one turned off, but I'll turn it back on, and it says 1 day before a due date arrives and the status of something is not doc sent. So in this case, it's a document, but maybe it's the return status is not approved or done or sent to client or whatever that final status is that marks it as done, to notify whoever I want to have notified. So I can have it notify a specific team member. I can have it notify a person column. That makes it dynamic. So if you have a different account manager or a different preparer for every client, you would want to make sure it was dynamic and set that person to be notified. And then you can choose what your notification says. So in this case, I've used my auto populate fields. The item name is the name of the item that's needed. The item for that particular task or process on this particular board, which would be the client's name, has not been submitted. Please reach out. So you can customize it to say what you want it to say. And this will not only notify somebody within Monday, but you can also have it notify you in your email, so that you get it in 2 places and you make sure that you don't miss those due dates. The other really great feature about Monday is creating a dashboard. This is our all client portfolio high level. You could have a dashboard for each of your staff accountants, for example, that show their client portfolios, that show the progress of everyone. And maybe we also create a widget in here for them. My favorite widget, take note, is called the table widget. You will not find it mentioned anywhere, which I don't know why. It is such an awesome widget. And what it does is it creates a super duper board of all of the different boards that we have in our dashboard, which what I love about this is, let's say we want to create something anywhere where the due date has passed and it's not done, then we're able to create that filter in here where the date is, let's say yesterday. Actually, I don't know if I have anything that's yesterday. Let's say past dates, and the status is not done. And let me just take away the rest of my board so you can see. Now I've got a quick view that says, late tasks. And I can see in a glance across all my different boards, the late tasks that I haven't done yet. This can also be great if you have any sort of approval process and you know that you are a bit of a bottleneck because you're very busy and you don't have time again to sift through the details. We create a dashboard for you. Anything that is marked waiting for approval, it goes straight to your dashboard. You go in there every day, you take a look at what's in there, you go through those items that need your approval, and done, they're off your plate and that bottleneck is removed. So this is a really handy way to get to those late tasks, those approval tasks in one place, as well as that notification automation that I showed you earlier. Great question.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Cheers. I think that's amazing, right? Otherwise, you're spending all your time going into individual boards looking for what you need to get done. Exactly.
One last thing that we'll just briefly touch on today, and then we'll have a few minutes for questions at the end, is the automated invoice tracker, which is a QuickBooks integration. It is not built into Monday, which is why if you download this workflow, you won't see it in there because it has to be added on outside of this particular workflow. But what this does is it connects directly to your QuickBooks. You can add and import customers from QuickBooks, and you can actually do it within Monday. It's a much cleaner interface. So I'm able to add a customer here, and add invoices here as well. And it will show up. I knew it was going to log me out. I don't want to take the time to log back in,
Gotta
but
love it.
you can see, and just trust me, that it's a two-way sync. It is super fast. It's more intuitive than QuickBooks to use. And you can also integrate it with your Monday system. So for example, you're able to email the client right away. They get their link to pay. This automates, the invoice status automates when it has been paid. So you don't touch it. You create the invoice. It's quicker than QuickBooks. It sends to the customer. They get it in an email, they pay it. This shows up as paid or partially paid. And it's also able to connect to give you notifications when things are late. Clients can receive notifications. Of course, QuickBooks can do that as well. But you can also connect it to other parts of your boards. So if you have another board where people are tracking time or tracking how much they've spent on a client, that can pull into this board here and then automatically go out to your QuickBooks. And there's also the ability soon to do auto recurring invoices in Monday. So the point of it is just to keep everything connected, to make it easier for you. So you're not having to use multiple different systems and tie in your QuickBooks, make sure that it's updated in Monday. And if you have any support staff that are working on invoicing, they will likely like this better than the QuickBooks interface itself. Awesome.
Julia, question for you. How-to videos, what is that? You didn't mention that yet.
The how-to videos are our big library of Daniel's space. So the how-to videos is actually a dashboard, but what we've done is we've embedded the tutorials for each of the different workspaces that we created. So getting started with Monday is going to go through a lot of what I covered at the beginning. Our sales and marketing boards, Daniel's going to go into more depth. As you can even see from here, we didn't cover the views, we didn't cover the dashboard. So he goes over that. The accounting workflow board, same thing. He's going into detail for how those that tax return board works, how that recurring services board works. And then finally, our client portal. He goes into a little bit more detail there. And then our board automations is just to show you what we've got going on in the back end. It's mostly just to help you. That here for each of these boards is what the automations are that have been created so that you have a list of those instead of having to go into each board and go to the Automate Center. And it's a little bit hard to search those otherwise. So that's the how-to videos. This is the space to get started and figure out how to use the system. And then of course, we are also available to help you if you need some more assistance customizing it.
Fabulous. Yeah, I was just going to say, where can our audience go if they have, additional questions or want to learn more, or, let's be honest, you dance the keys very, very efficiently. We're not all as versed in money.com. What are some other resources available? Where do we go from here?
Perfect. Good question. So the first thing, of course, is if you don't have the Workflows app already, you can download it at techguruit.com/Monday. I don't think you said at the beginning, Daniel, but Tech Guru and Lucid Day are sister companies. We work together to create this app in Monday. And so that's where the download lives for the app. The second thing is if you're wanting a free 25-minute workflow optimization workshop with us, then you can go to our lucidday.com/contact in order to sign up for a session with me. And this is not just a sales call. We're really looking, it's a strategy call. It's a mini strategy call where we're going to look at how your firm works. We're going to help you to decide what the next steps would be for how to get this up and running for you in the best way possible. So we want to stress that we're not just trying to get your services, we're trying to help you to optimize Monday and your firm in the best way possible. So we would love to help you in that way. Other than that, within Monday, there's actually a really solid tutorial center. So if you click on this little question mark in the left-hand side, or even if you Google monday.com support, you're going to find their help center, where you can either type things in here or just go directly to their read and learn. It's going to take you to their knowledge center, where you can search their very robust knowledge base and get information that's specific to the questions that you have. So we would recommend that as well. And here's just so you can see the Tech Guru page. This is what you're looking for. Here's where you can download those resources. And here's our contact page on Lucid Day. We'll just have you fill out this form and we'll get in touch with you right away to schedule a consultation.
Julie, I think we've answered them all, and you did a fabulous job providing an overview of our workflow template for CPA firms, version 2.0, even better than the video for version 1.0. Thank you very, very much.